in verse 14, the word over in Shalach, Yahuah, we have, what's the Hebrew word that you have?
Abar.
Abar. It means to do away, to take away. The Paul stem definition, we have pass through as the parts of victim in a covenant. All right? So we have the waters here. Just like when Israel, when we, our forefathers, went through the Red Sea. All right? I just excuse my drawings. All right? So we have this, all of this is water. All right? All of this is water here. Israel is going through on dry land. With Israel moving like this, what's the first thing that comes through your mind?
They were immersed.
Right, they were immersed. Hallelujah. What else? Because again, everything is stemming from off what Moray taught. He's going between the pieces. Exactly, that's the covenant. They going between the pieces. Hallelujah. This was, right, oh, okay, yeah, this thing, so, okay, all right. So, we're going between the pieces. So this is now a covenant that's being made. But what happened? We broke the covenant. Right? We broke the covenant.
Yep.
So another generation comes up. And when you read now, Joshua, the 3rd chapter, verses 14 to 17, there's another crossing at the Jordan River this time. And the same thing happens, and guess what? We have the waters again, and we have Israel now going through the pieces again. This covenant that the Father keeps trying to establish with every single brother and sister here in this congregation. Ask yourself, what else do you want the Father to do? What else? He sent his Son to be that atoning sacrifice for us. From the very beginning, he set up, when you go to the book of Genesis, the 1st chapter, verse 14, it has the word seasons there. But that word seasons in Hebrew is moedim. So a salvation plan was set up for us from the very beginning. He gave us his laws, statutes, and commandments, and we broke those. We went through the Red Sea, we broke that covenant. Went through the Jordan River, we broke that covenant. He sent his Son, broke that covenant. Really? I mean, what else do you want? In your captivity, or in our captivity, on top of that, he gave you a car to drive, a house to live in. He gave you children. And according to the law, you're not supposed to have any of those things. So the question becomes, what else do you want? Because you're in captivity. This is the reason why we see that the Father's going to come down with so much fury. And whether we want to believe it or not, I guarantee you, like Scripture says, this covenant, these instructions, is not in Shamayim, it's not over the seas, it's not over here, it is near to you. When the Father sends the Son, he is not coming to have a personal conversation with you on your feelings. He's not playing. There's nothing else that I can do for you. Nothing else. This is the reason why we have to pay very close attention to Scripture. What does that mean to you when the Father says to you, if I would have come to any other people, they would have repented a long time ago? That hurts, man. It hurts. When the Mashiyach came, he said in the book of Matthew, he said, you know what? Israel didn't even recognize the time of her visitation. Just like a chick gathers her chicks under her wings, I would have delivered you at that time. but you didn't recognize me. Therefore, Jerusalem's going to be laid down. It's going to be trodden by the Gentiles, and your bodies will be laid even with the ground. And you know what it means when it says that your bodies would be laid even with the ground, right? Everybody knows what that means. You're going to stretch you out, die, you're dead, you're even with the ground.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm going to kill you. Okay, so again, we broke this covenant. We went through the pieces again, broke that covenant. This covenant is based upon another covenant that was talked about in Genesis, the 15th chapter. Where we talk about the promise and the oath, where we now have Abraham at the time, not going between the pieces, but it was actually the Mashiyach going between the pieces, because we see that smoke in that burning furnace now that is talked about in Genesis 15th chapter. It was that same smoking, burning furnace now that was the clouds that guided the nation of Yashra'al in the wilderness all the time. It was always him.
Yeah.
So my argument is going to be this, is how are we going to now account for all of these times when the Father was carrying us and we still have issues? And then the next question becomes now in Genesis the 15th chapter, when we have the crossings or the going between the pieces, what festival was that? Did you know that that was a festival? We'll talk about it later. Okay? Something to ponder on, all right? We don't want to throw everything out today, all right? In verse 14, we also want to look at the three-letter root word for Jordan. And we get the word Yahuah, which is the Strong's number 3381, and it means to go down, to descend, to decline, to prostrate. And it means also now, in going between the pieces, man, somebody has to be submissive, man. Come on now. All right? Somebody has to play their part. Because the Father has done everything else for us now. So the only thing that's left for us to do now is to be submissive. And to be submissive now is to follow Torah. Remember that in the days of Yahusha, vowel pointing was not used. And Joshua, the 4th chapter, verses 1 through 5. We're almost done. We're almost done, all right? Remember the days of Yahusha, the vowel pointing systems were not being used. It talked about there was a gathering of many stones. Joshua, the 4th chapter, verses 1 through 5. I'm going to read that quickly. And it came to pass, when all the people, Israel, were clean passed over Jordan, that Yahuah spoke unto Joshua, or Yahusha, saying, take you 12 men out of the people, out of every tribe, a man. So the focus here now is on who? What type of people here? The 12 tribes of Israel, right? Okay, let's I don't want to pull teeth here. Take you 12 men out of the people, out of every tribe of man, and command you them, saying, take you hence out of, watch this now, and command you them, saying, take you hence out of the midst of Jordan, out of the place where the priest's feet stood firm, 12 stones, and you shall carry them over with you, and leave them in the lodging place where you shall lodge this night. And Joshua, or Yahusha, called the 12 men whom he had prepared of the children of Yashra'al, out of every tribe a man. And Joshua said unto them, pass over before. I'm going to read verse 5 again. And Joshua said unto them, pass over before the ark of Yahuah, your Elohim, into the midst of Jordan, and take you of every man of you a stone upon his shoulder, according to the number of the 12 tribes of Israel. So we know what's going on here, right? That's self-explanatory. We're going to now read verses 6 through 7. Yahuah is going to now give Yashra'al a sign. This may be a sign among you that when your children ask their fathers in time to come, saying, what mean you by these stones? Anybody here has on a breastplate? No? Okay, no problem. Then you shall answer them that the waters of Jordan were cut off before the ark of the covenant of Yahuah when it passed over Jordan. The waters of Jordan were cut off, and the stone shall be for me a memorial for the children of Yashra'al forever. Forever, all right? I'm going to now read verses 8 through 11. We're talking about now the memorial in the water. 8 through 11. And the children of Yashra'al did so at Joshua's command, and took up 12 stones out of the midst of Jordan, as Yahuah spoke unto Joshua or Yahusha, according to the number of the tribe of the children of Yashra'al, and carried them over with them unto the place where they lodged, and laid them down there. Verse 9, and Joshua set up 12 stones in the midst of Jordan, in the place where the feet of the priests which bear the ark of the covenant stood, and they are there unto this day. So we see what's happening now. The priests now gathered up 12 stones, and these 12 stones now are left inside the midst of the Jordan. The 12 elders or the heads of the tribes, they took 12 stones now, and they took them out of the water. 12 stones are in the water, 12 stones were taken out of the water as a memorial. So when your children ask you what mean these stones, they're supposed to be a reminder of, again, like Rabbi Aluf said, the KCKL, it's a covenant, it's a covenant sign. It's an oath, it's a signal, it's a sign. Verse 9, and Joshua set up 12 stones in the midst of the Jordan, in the place where the feet of the priest stood, which bear the ark of the covenant, and they are there to this day. Verse 10, for the priest now, which bear the ark, stood in the midst of Jordan until everything was finished that Yahuah commanded Joshua to speak unto the people according to all that Moshe commanded Joshua, and the people hasted and passed over. Verse 11, and it came to pass when all the people were clean, passed over, that the ark of Yahuah passed over, and the priest and the presence of the people. One more scripture, Mishpachah, just to make sure everybody is told how many sets of stones were gathered all together at the Jordan River.
2 sets. You said sets, right?
Right.
2 sets.
2 sets of 12, giving us a total of 24. Okay, so one set was taken from the Jordan River and lodged with Yashra'al in Gilgal, and the second set was gathered and stationed in the middle or the midst of the river. Now, so we see now the Mashiyach beginning his ministry. Where at again?
At the Jordan River.
At the Jordan River, and at the Jordan River there were 12 stones.
To represent the 12 tribes.
The 12 tribes of Israel. So the Mashiyach now has been anointed to bring into fruition now the covenant that was made with the 12 stones that represents the 12 tribes of Israel. That's what this ministry is about. Any questions?
Yeah.
So again, one more time, Yehochanan immerses the Mashiyach in the Jordan River. This is a strategic location. Why there? Because of the covenant that was made with Israel there, the 12 stones that was in the midst of the waters there. And those 12 stones represents the 12 tribes of Israel. Yehochanan immerses the Mashiyach. Those stones were a reminder. And the Hebrew word for stones is bond. Nun sophit, which means son.
Yeah.
Bond or bar, which is Aramaic, means son. And I'll leave that there, because there's a lot of root words to that word there. Any questions? Yes.
So one could assume that Mashiyach then took 12 Talmudim in the same way that Yahusha, son of Nun, took 12 of the heads of the 12 tribes of Yashra'al in that same way to bring them to the promise.
Right, so Joshua's father took 12.
No. I was saying, all right, one could assume that Yahusha HaMashiach took 12 Talmudim,
Right.
in the same way that Yahusha, son of Nun, took 12 of the elders of...
Absolutely, 100% correct.
Okay.
Absolutely, 110% correct. Brother, sharp as a razor. Oh, you are. Yes, sir.
What was the 12 stones? What did they represent? The ones that were outside of the water?
The ones that were outside of the water was supposed to be a testimony for the nation of Yashra'al. And when Israel crossed over, once they got to the land, we go with next week where it talked about they were actually supposed to now set up a stone with the instructions, the 10 Commandments. So it can always be a reminder as a frontlet before their eyes. But the 12 stones that was taken out of the water by the elders is supposed to be a reminder for the children of Israel about the covenant of going between the waters, salvation, about to go into the land. And then we have 12 stones that was stationed permanently in the waters. And just like we had Yahuah did, an excellent presentation. It's not even a suggestion. We can assume you're 100% correct. We then see now that the Mashiyach now is going to actually now take 12 disciples, and that word stones means son. And he's going to actually now begin his ministry in delivering the message. And so inauguration is just another word. You could say immerse, the way that they do even in the political system with the presidents. Before he actually takes seat, he has to go through like an inauguration process. So that's what the Mashiyach was actually doing. He was preparing himself because he was the lamb that was promised or was told to be the salvation from the very beginning. Anybody else? Because Pesach is 4 days away. 4 days. 4 days. I'm just happy. I'm ecstatic, and at the same time, I'll watch everything, especially during this time here, because I understand that this is a wedding, and just the way our Ishas are at their weddings, where every single thing has to be perfect. I'm the same way. Everything has to be perfect. Don't bother me. I really don't want to have no problems about now. But it's the same thing that women do also. We just do it, man. Come on. Just do what you're supposed to do. It's Torah. If it's in Torah and the Father's asking us to do it, just do it. Because I won't say that, but just do what you're supposed to do, and everything's going to be good. Okay? Mashiyach, he's on the ass. Okay? He's going into Jerusalem, and he's the people are crying out, Hosanna, Hosanna, and then the priests are saying, you know what, tell them to shut up. But at this point, they're accepting the Mashiyach. And I like this. In order to have a covenant or a marriage, do anybody remember the 4 principles that Moreh brought out? Because it's the very same principles that's happening all over again when the Mashiyach, as he makes his entrance into Jerusalem, because in order for him to be accepted, certain things, it has to happen. Anybody remember what those things are?
I think one was we had to agree to it.
Okay.
What are you agreeing to?
The covenant.
So first there has to be
The proposal, like the Keturah.
So there has to be a proposal first. Listen, I promise you, every single thing is based upon what Moreh is talking about. It is. It's not magic. It really is. It's not. It's the proposal, then what comes next. And then I'll be acceptance. Blood ratification.
Covenant meal. Bread and wine.
And then the blood and, what is it?
Covenant meal.
We're going to talk about that. All right, a little bit later. So these things are very, very important. proposal, acceptance, blood ratification, the covenant meal. It's not going to be magic. It's just that there's a lot of different ways of looking at it, but it's all centered around every single thing that Moray talked about. Everything. He was on point. Excellent lesson, dynamic lesson. He did a hell of a job. I really appreciate that the Father poured out the set-apart spirit on him to do the lesson. And I'm just going to piggyback off of our Moray here. Yes.
So Moray, those 4 steps, is that supposed to happen before the wilderness, or when the proposal and all of that is going to come into play?
Okay, you know what? Very good question.
As a nation, for the nation of Yashra'al.
We're collectively a body, but at the same time, it's an individual walk.
Right.
So the best way that I can answer the question, I'm going to use myself as an example. I accepted the proposal. So did you accept the proposal? I mean, there was a proposal made. I agreed to the proposal. I'm going to now accept it. I understand that the Mashiyach is the blood ratification of the covenant. And so what's happening now is that, and I'll talk about this a little bit later, I'm waiting now for the covenant meal. All right? So, just like it was in the days of the beginning, I mean, when Israel first came out of Egypt, it's going to be the same thing all over again. And just like Zakar had brought to my attention, and I'm going to do it too, I'm going to do the 42 footsteps again. Every step of the way. Okay, I'm not going to say that word, geez, but Negroes are going to give us a problem. I'm telling you, there's going to be a problem. We're a problem people. There's going to be a problem. Because not everybody is really about community. And there's nowhere in Scripture where the Mashiyach is talking about he's going to start and do something on his own. He said he's going to prepare a place in his Father's house, not somewhere else, outside of the Father's house. We're talking about a community, and we've been taught here not to be community-minded people. Just like Zakar, when we was out there in the land, I mean, it was a beautiful experience. Some of the things that we saw is just not done. What's done over there, if what's been done here, it was done over there, you would have problems. There was a report that, for example, during the Feast of Sukkot, if you was caught driving down the Shabbats, in those neighborhoods, they would stone your car. It's just that the zeal that they have, and we really don't, a lot of us, forget it. But anyway, man,